Hello, I'm Jane and I want to invite you to play along with me. We're going to make this sunflower pendant, and don't worry if you've never used polymer clay before, you don't need any experience to have done this. I will take you through it step by step and I know that you're going to make something wonderful. So let's go. The things we're going to need to make this sunflower are polymer clay to begin with. So we need a nice bright yellow. This is actually called sunflower yellow, about the size of a small grape. Should be okay. I'm using green for the back. Now you're not going to see this really unless you look at the other side of it, but I like green. I think it's in keeping. You could use any colour clay, but I like the green. And that's about the size of a marrow fat pea. And then a tiny piece, this is about the size of a petit pois. I like to use fruit and vegetables for to give a scale. So that's a brown coloured clay. And then because we're going to be making a pendant, I've got a small jump ring. Now you could, if you didn't want to make a pendant, if you wanted to make a magnet, you could just get a small magnet and glue this on afterwards once you've cured it, or even a brooch back that you could glue onto your sunflower after you've cured it if you wanted to make it a brooch instead. Or you could glue it onto a card, put it in a frame, something like that. So if you want to do that, you'll need obviously your extra bits, and you'll need some good strong glue if you're going to be using a magnet or a brooch. I think I'd advise, if you were doing that, maybe to use a hot glue gun. Should be strong enough. Right, and then we're going to need some tools, but I've specifically made it so you can use things that you should have lying around the house really. I don't want you to have to go out and buy anything. So to begin with, I'm using a coin, a 10 pence piece, because when you're making the sunflower you're going to want to turn it around. So this is quite a nice easy thing, and if you make it on here you can actually then put this in the oven to cure it on as well, so you don't have to try and peel it off. You could just use a little square of greaseproof paper, or a square of cardboard even, because the cardboard shouldn't burn in the oven at the temperature you're going to need to cure your polymer clay at. But I'm using a 10 pence piece, a cocktail stick. Every polymer clay has many cocktail sticks in the toolbox. Now I use a retractable craft knife, and I find this wonderful because it's got a bit of flex to it. It's good for scraping clay off the tile. But if you don't have that, an old kitchen knife, an old butter knife will be fine. If you're going to use some kitchen equipment with polymer clay, it can no longer be used with food. So once it's been used for polymer clay, that then becomes part of your polymer clay kit. This will also apply for baking sheets. If you're working on a plate, as a work surface, same again. Don't use it with food. Talking about work surfaces, now I use a big ceramic tile. That is one of the best things I've found. You can also cure on a ceramic tile. You can put that in the oven. Some people use a sheet of laminated paper. That's really good for working on. A piece of glass, just a glass sheet, can be used. Any kind of acrylic plastic, flat acrylic plastic, is fine with polymer clay. Other types of plastic can interact with the clay, so I wouldn't recommend. And also manila folders, so the kind of folder that you used to get in school for putting work in, that kind of tough but slightly shiny cardboard, that can make a really good work surface as well. Right, what else do we need? We're going to need a pencil, and this with a nice kind of rounded end. Or it doesn't need to be a pencil, you might have tools that will do it. Maybe the end of a paintbrush will do it, but something with a nice rounded end. I've got a pen here, and that will just make the dimple in the middle of your sunflower centre. So something just, even a marble. I have used marbles quite often, so just to give a nice indent in the centre of there. And we will need a paintbrush if you're using chalk pastels or eyeshadows to give a bit of shading as well. If you're not doing that, you don't need a pencil. The most important tool I find for polymer clay is your fingertips. So you're going to need them. And it's a good idea before you get started to give your hands a wash, dry and fingernails a scrub, although mine always end up with clay down them. Dry your hands on a light coloured towel, because you find if you use a dark coloured towel, when you're rolling the lighter coloured clay, you get specks on there, which can be really annoying. Then I think we're ready to go. If you have chalk pastels that you're going to use, then the way we get a nice powder is with the fine grade sandpaper, and this is 320, so you want something about that fine. And then you can use your sandpaper as a palette and just get your chalk pastel and draw along there, and that will give you a lovely fine powder. So what we want for the petals, we've got a yellow clay, so we maybe want to add some orange and red tints in, so I've got an orange pastel and the red pastel there. And then for the centre of the sunflower, we've got a brown clay, and I'm just going to add a slightly different shade of brown, so a paler brown, just to add some shading in the middle there. And I've got a bit of a rusty one too that I might add. We'll see how it looks. If you don't have chalk pastels, you can use old powdered eyeshadows, that will work as well. If you're going to use your eyeshadow, either scrape a bit out into a different pot to use, or don't use it again. You don't want to be putting your paintbrush in the eyeshadow onto your clay and then at any point back in there and on your face. Don't do that. So decommission it once you've used it, keep it just for your clay. But that will work as well as chalk pastels. We're going to start by making the back of the pendant. So this is the, or your magnet or brooch, whatever you're doing. This is kind of going to be the base we're putting all the petals on. So we want the small part of a piece of green clay. Now with your polymer clay, before you start, you need to condition the clay. So this is just squishing it, rolling it until it becomes really nice and soft and pliable. About the consistency of blue tack is what I like to go for. So once your clay, it could take quite a while depending on how fresh your clay is. Once you've got it nice and soft, then we're gonna roll it. If you're making just a magnet or a brooch, you want to roll it into a ball to begin with. Now I'm gonna show you how to do the pendant, so we're going for more of a teardrop shape. So start with a ball, and then roll it to a point. Now if you were doing your magnet or your brooch, then you just get your ball there and squish it flat with your finger. Now you can see how ours has got a little point on it. Obviously if you just started with the ball, you just have now a flat round disc. So we're going to put the jump ring in, and the way I found a simple way of doing this is we're going to make a slice. In fact, you can even start by putting a hole, just to put a mark where you want your jump ring to come out. And then I'm going to go from the side with my knife and just cut straight through to that hole. So we've not gone all the way through the top of the teardrop, we've just gone to the hole, and then you can open that up. Now I like to have the join of the jump ring, I don't know if you can see that there, hidden in the clay, because I think it's just a bit neater. So push that into your little hole, and then we close it down. Now if we left it like that, it would just snap off, it would just break off when you wear it. So we need to join it up by squishing and stroking to smooth that over. And you need a really good bond between the two bits of clay that you've sliced open. So squish, push, and stroke to smooth it over. Now it doesn't really matter on the top side kind of how tidy it is, because that's going to be hidden, but on the underside you might be able to see that, so try and tidy that up. And you can use your cocktail stick to drag clay around as well if you need to. Once you're happy with how that looks, just reshape your little teardrop. And then I find the advantage of having a coin is that you can place it on the coin, you see, with the jump ring hanging down the back, so it's not pushing your jump ring forwards. So we'll put that there, and then tidy that up. And then this is what we can start working on. To make the petals, we're going to need the yellow clay. Now, like with the green, we want it well conditioned, so you just need to squish it and roll it about in your hands for a while until it's nice and soft. Then we're going to roll it into a sausage. So just on your work surface with either the flat of your fingers, palm of your hand, try and make it quite even. And we want it to be about 3/4 of a centimetre, about a similar size to the pencil, maybe a bit smaller than the pencil. So about 3/4 of a centimetre in diameter. That looks about right. Then we're going to take 3mm slices, and we want 12 of them. So we're going to do 12 petals around the outside, and then we're going to do 12 smaller petals on the inside. So with this size, we want, if we chop the end just so you've got a nice flat surface to work with there, so you can get them all nice and even. And then about 3mm, we're just going to do 12 slices. Trying to get them as even as you can. Then we'll roll the sausage a bit thinner again, so now about 1/2 centimetre in diameter. And try and get the sausage so it's nice and even. Then all your pieces are going to be the same size. So again, trim the end. And then we'll do the same, so again about 3mm. There you go, we've got a bit spare. So we've got larger petals and smaller petals. Now for each petal, we want to roll it first into a ball, and then we're going to roll it into a teardrop shape, either between your fingers on the surface, you can do it on the palm of your hand. So just roll one side, so we've got a teardrop shape, and then just using your fingers, press it flat till we've got a nice petal shape, and then we'll do the same for the other 11. I've skipped the end. So with these petals, they don't all have to be exactly the same shape, but you do want them all roughly the same size. But petals in the flower will have a kind of natural variation. So if one kind of curls a bit at the top, that will just make it look a bit more real. But we are hoping that they'll all be kind of very similar in size, so you get a nice even flower around. do the last one of these, and then if you are using chalk pastels or eyeshadows, I'll show you how to add some colour and some shading with that. So I'm going to get a palette. Now I'm going to start with the orange and just add a bit of orange, then I might add a tiny bit of red too, we'll see what it looks like. So a small brush and just dab on there, so you're picking up a bit, and then you maybe tap a bit off as well because you don't want it too kind of bold. And then from the centre at the bottom of the petal, let's show you this one, centre at the bottom of the petal, just drag up really gently. So you're starting at the bottom and kind of just flicking the brush up. You don't want to put too much pressure on. You don't want any real bold stripes. There you see. See if I can get one closer. And if you just have a little bit of the pastel on your brush, you can always add more. There we go. And again, it doesn't, you know, they don't have to all be exactly even. There's variation in nature. And then I think I will just add the tiniest bit of red. Just right down in the centre there. And then you repeat this for the rest of these petals, and then go on to the smaller ones doing the same. So let me just show you the size difference. So that's a bit smaller. There. And then you do the same with your chalk pastels, so a little bit of the orange, tiny bit of the red, just to give that shading. Okay, I'll come back once I've done all the rest of these. So we do the same with the smaller petals with the chalk pastels if you're using them. So I've done the orange, I'll do the red. There we go. A bit of variation does look nice as well. There we go. Now I'm going to just move all these out of the way to give me a good area to work in. And we'll start with the bigger petals first. So you might want to put the little ones off to the side. And it's a good idea, we've got quite a mess, so it's a good idea to clean down your work surface before you move on to the next stage. Right, now we need our little base bit back and a cocktail stick, and this we're going to use to both pick up the petals and place them, but also just to help shape them. So you can see, if you press the cocktail stick into the petal, no, it's not coming up. Okay, take that back, pick it up with your fingers if that doesn't work. Then you want to put the cocktail stick in the middle, and we're going to just pinch the bottom just to help shape that petal a little bit, and then you should be able to hold it with the cocktail stick so it's in place. And we're going to start by putting them, we're going to do 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So just press with your cocktail stick until you can feel it biting, then twist the stick a little bit to release. And you can see I've kind of pushed in a little bit just to make sure the clay is firmed on. Now that one is going to hide your loop. We'll get the next. Again, shape the petal around the stick. You can also, if you want to, kind of add a little twist on the top, you can. So we've done 12 o'clock. I've lost it. Try again. Six o'clock. There we go, picked it up. Three o'clock. And 9 o'clock. And see, so I'm not putting them right at the edge. I'm giving quite a good overlap there, so they've got quite a lot of contact with the base bit, because we don't want them to fall off. Then with the others we're going to fill in the gaps, so another one there, another one there, and so on till all 12 have gone on. And try and squeeze it in the last gap. And it doesn't matter if some of your petals kind of shove others out of the way. Again, we're going for a natural look. And if you want to curl any of the petals, twist them, you can give them a bit of a tweak. Then we'll move on to the smaller row of inner petals. So again, we're going to pick it up, shape it. Then with these ones, we're going kind of alternating round. So we're not going to go much further in now, we're going to stick it almost on top of the last one. So where the two petals join, that's where we're aiming for. That's where we're going to attach the clay. On to the next. With this now we know where to put them because we're just going in between each one, so we don't need to do 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. That just helps us kind of space them so they're nice and even. But now we're just going one in between each gap. Now, see, I've stuck a big fingernail in there just to hold it steady. It doesn't matter. We're going to cover that bit up anyhow. So better doing any kind of holding it steady in the centre rather than at the edges because we don't want to damage the petals. There we go. Now we want the small brown blob. Now we just need to roll that into a ball and then place it in the centre, as central as you can. And then we'll take our pencil or pen, anything, whatever you're using to make that indent, and just right in the centre, just give it a bit of a splodge. And holding it still, give it a twist. There. And then you have, oh, don't drop it. There you go. You have that kind of natural indent that you have at the centre of a sunflower. Now, just to give it that little bit more detail, I'll take the cocktail stick. Now I'm turning it round because I've got bits of pastel on there, and then just little holes, little pricks in the centre, and then just around, work around in concentric circles. All the way around the edge. Now I did get some lighter chalk pastel as well, so I want to just add a bit more shading on there. So I'm going right in the middle. And then I might just get the rusty colour and just add a tiny little bit to the outside. You can hear that rain coming down. And there we go. We have our pendant ready to get cured in the oven. I'm going to leave it on the 10 pence to cure because that can go in the oven just fine anyhow. Then when you take it out, you should be able to just kind of get a fingernail down and flick it off. Now you want to cure this according to your manufacturer's instructions. Different types of polymer clay will cure at different temperatures and for different times. Once it's done, just be careful that jump ring will stay hot for quite a while, so let it cool down properly before handling it as well. And then you can thread it onto a necklace and wear it. If you were making a magnet or a brooch, then once it's cured and cooled, you can just use some hot glue, maybe hot glue gun, or a very strong glue to stick it onto the back, stick your magnet or your brooch back onto the back there. There we go. Finished sunflower pendant. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make an adjustable choker necklace to put your pendant on out of some wax cotton cord, or you could, if you wanted, use a leather thong or something. So, you take the cord and you want to get a measure of how long you want it to be, you need to get it over your head. So you want to wrap it around the widest part of your head to make sure that it will actually fit over your head, and then add about an extra 10 centimetres or so to give you a bit of extra for tying the knots, maybe 10-15 centimetres, something like that. So here's one that I've measured. Then we're going to thread it onto your pendant. And then to make it adjustable, we're going to take one end of your cord, untangle, one end of your cord, wrap it over the other so you've got them kind of your ends going in opposite directions. And you're going to tie a knot. So you're taking it under that side and pushing it through so the end is going kind of towards your pendant. Take both ends of that and pull it tight. So you say you've got one end going following the cord round there, and then this end's following this cord. So we go then to the other side, we're doing the same but almost in reverse. So that end, then again it's going towards the pendant, that's going that way. Pull that one tight, then you can slide those to get it to its full size, pop it over your head, check that it fits. If it doesn't, you might need to adjust these knots. Then to adjust it to fit once it's on, you just slide these knots away from each other. When you're happy with it, you can just trim the ends. Don't trim them too close because you don't want that knot getting undone, coming undone. And still leave a bit if you do need to, keep pulling the wrong bit, if you do need to tighten it so you've still got a bit to grab hold of. And there you go.